I think the third best team in the West is the next team we're going to talk about, which is the Rockets. So I want to hear you first on the Rockets. So give me what you think about the Rockets. Might be a little long, but we'll go ahead.
Yeah, we're both Rockets fans, so this is interesting. I like the Rockets. I definitely think this is their chance to prove themselves wrong. A lot of the times they've gotten criticism for the fact that they haven't been, their stamina is just worn out. Their play style wears them out. They're all healthy. Eric Gordon's finally healthy. They can rework, they can readjust, and there's an obvious flaw. There's a big hole. There's an elephant in the room that needs to be talked about, and that's the fact that they are doing something almost experimental, not to the degree that the media portrays it, because we have seen types like this, but they definitely took it to a more extreme degree, and that is a small ball, which is interesting because we've seen them lose to the Knicks, and we've seen them beat the Lakers with it. I don't know. I love Rocco. He's been playing fantastic on the Rockets. The Rockets players have been honed in. Harden, when focused, he can be a really good defender. It's the same thing with Westbrook. When you look at, in my opinion, I think they have one of the most underrated depths in the league. Because if you look at the first five, which is probably Harden, Westbrook, Robert Covington, and PJ Tucker, that's like the solidified first four, and I honestly think that's a top first four in the NBA. And their fifth man, which is probably going to be, I think it's Daniel House. I know Nick and I disagree about this. I think it's Daniel House is the fifth man. Eric Gordon's the sixth man with McLemore and I'm forgetting the name, Austin Rivers as their seventh and eighth. That's a really good eight right there. That can play really good basketball, and it's really plug and play. The issue that is are they going to be out-rebounded by these bigger teams such as the Nuggets? Are they going to struggle against the Lakers, where AD can just abuse them? That's when we're going to see the issue. All the games that they have lost, it's not because their offense wasn't working right. It's not because their experiments wasn't producing. What was happening was they just weren't hitting their shots. They had so many open looks. And I think you can testify to this, is they are more streaky than any other team. They can go on a 20-point streak. And that's not surprising. That's common, I would say. But we also have seen now, I think it was against the Kings, they started the game off like 0-20, not 0-25. This score started off 0-25. It was like 3 minutes left in the first quarter until they scored. That's how streaky they can be. And that's scary. And it's hard to really rely on that. I think that they can beat it. And I think they are a team you better watch out for. Because in a series of 7, they are guaranteed to have 2 games where they are the best team in the NBA. Where they are hitting 38% of their threes. Because against the Lakers, did that team look beatable? That team did not look beatable. They were hitting everything. Robert Covington was on fire. Westbrook was making some shots that were just, wow. Harden was playing efficient. PJ Tucker's defense was good enough. That's all you need him to be. And I believe that was that Eric Gordon as well. So that's really what I got to say about the Rockets. I know that's a little longer. There is a glaring hole, I think, and I am definitely nervous to face the Nuggets, and I'm definitely nervous to face the Lakers and the Clippers. But yeah, that's what I got to say.
Okay. So a lot of thoughts ran through my head right there. I am going to try to say this. I'm going to make this as simple as I can make it without going into detail too much. Because I could just ramble on forever. Like me and Nick actually saw each other today, and we rambled for about an hour on this. But I will go ahead and just give my simplified version. So I'm just going to do some pros and cons. So I'm just going to start with the cons and say the negatives about the Rockets going forward. The negatives obviously are rebounding and general post defense. That's their weakness with this small ball. Like you said, it's experimental, and they're trying it out. And their tallest player is 6'8", I think, that
Yeah.
actually plays. They have two. They have Bruno Caboclo, who's about 6'10", and Tyson Chandler, who's 7 feet. They don't play really, so they play. Everybody they play is 6'8" and under, so that's really small. So their defensive rebounding obviously is going to lack. So if they, for some reason, just don't dig in and take it seriously, they're going to get out rebounded by 20 rebounds a game, which, unless they're hitting 25 threes a game, you're not going to win very many games when you get out rebounded by 20 plus. It's just really hard. I mean, you're giving, and half of those are probably offensive rebounds. So you're giving up 10 more offensive opportunities to opposing teams. When you give teams, extra shots at the basket, I mean, these are NBA players, so you can't give teams 3 opportunities on one possession at the basket. They're going to score. So that for sure is a weakness. Post defense also is a big weakness because if you try to double team the post, teams are very good at passing and finding an open man for a 3. That's just how the NBA is going now. That's how the Rockets play, and that's how most teams are playing now, is try to drive and kick. And if you try to post up the Rockets, they're going to try to double team, but if they double team, most likely it's going to end up in a wide open 3, and you just have to hope they miss. Those are kind of the 2 major negative things about the Rockets. Going into the positive things, I think this situation they're in is the best that they're going to get with this group of players. I really do believe that. Their schedule is very doable. I think they could easily go 5-3 or 6-2 in this 8-game stretch to get their seeding up. And I think with James Harden and Westbrook being able to rest for 3 months, they've never really had that. They've had to be the leader on their team, which they have to play about 80 games of the regular season and go into the playoffs. And they're gassed because they have the 2 highest usage rates in the NBA. So they're gassed when they go into the playoffs. Now they won't be as gassed because they've had 3 months off. So now you get a rested James Harden, a rested Russell Westbrook, and you get a regular season version of the Rockets instead of a playoff version of the Rockets, which means that other guys won't have to do as much. James Harden can carry more of the load because he's so rested. So that, to me, the stars are all aligning for the Rockets this year. I think the teams ahead of them, like the Nuggets, like the Jazz, and the Thunder, really the Nuggets and the Jazz, I would say, have had things happen to them that are unfortunate and will cost them in the end. So I think the Thunder is really the only team that stands in their way to get to the Lakers or the Clippers. That's basically, in short, what I think about them. I mean, I can go in more depth in a different video, but to me, I think the stars are going to align for them, and it's just going to be about the series against the Lakers or Clippers if they can shoot the ball well enough to get past the Lakers or Clippers, because their defense is going to be lacking, obviously. I think if they can shoot as well as they have been in the regular season, they played really well since they started small ball. If they can shoot and make 15 to 23s a night, which I know that's very difficult to do, but with this system, they're built to shoot that many and make that many. I think it's going to be more of a shootout kind of atmosphere in the bubble, and I think that's going to go to their benefit. So there's a lot of benefits that they have of actually playing this way, and I think this is the best shot they're going to get. One more negative I will say very, very fast about them is that this, like you said, is an experiment, and they're one of the first teams to really go all in on small ball. But I think just like the Warriors did with the three-point shot, I think 3-4 years down the line, I think more teams are going to actually do this. So I think the negative would be for the Rockets. They are kind of the starters of this movement of small ball. And just like all the other teams, the players, the people who have started out trends in the NBA have not done super, super well at the beginning. It usually takes a little bit to have the league kind of adapt to it for them to play well. So that could be a negative. But I think this year is the best chance that they're going to get to win a championship. And I think it's highly possible.
It's going to be interesting to see, and I'm definitely excited. One more point that I'll make is that it seems like the Rockets seem to be more focused whenever the game is big, and less focused. Like their worst games have been against worst teams, and their best games have been against best teams. That's what I would argue. I don't know if you agree with that, but at least that's what I have seen whenever I was watching them.
Yeah. I think it's hard because with small ball, it requires so much attention to detail, which that's another thing I didn't even bring up. The crowd is not going to be there, which they'll be able to communicate a lot better. But I think you saw when they were playing the good teams, they really locked in and tried like their very hardest to play together. And when they played lesser teams, they just kind of like, okay, you know, we got to save our attention and energy towards the better team. So I think you're right that they didn't try as hard against lesser teams, but I think now that you're close to the playoffs, they're going to try hard every night, and they're going to be rested to do it. So, yeah.
Absolutely. And I think one thing to watch is Mike D'Antoni's coaching, because I think he's coaching and he's showing off. Because this is a contract year for him. This is sort of going into more of a Rockets video at this point, but I just want to point this out. His coaching has lacked in the playoffs before. And that's one thing that scares me a lot is will he make transitions and will he make changes whenever there needs to be changes? Because he seemed to sort of just stay stagnant when things even weren't going that well in the playoffs. So just want to throw that out there. Thank you guys for watching. It's going to be interesting. We only have about 8 more days until the opening game. Do you know what the opening game is?
I believe it's July 30th, but I don't know who it is. I know the Rockets played July 31st for their first game, but I believe July 30th is the opening night.
It's going to be fantastic showing, and I cannot wait to watch. So thank you guys for watching, and make sure you check out our other videos if you haven't seen them. Bye.